It began with a simple, powerful idea after 9/11. Connect the dots, a tool funded by the CIA and built by Silicon Valley's brightest to stop the next threat. But its power grew, and soon its software was everywhere. In military command centers, on corporate trading floors, inside national health systems, and at the heart of immigration raids. This is the story of how a secretive defense contractor became a public company, how its technology became both praised and protested across the world, and how its leaders now wield influence from the battlefield to the ballot box.
Welcome to the Discovery Clock series.
The turn of the millennium, an era alive with the promise of a newly interconnected world. A time when dial-up tones gave way to dreams of limitless connection. Even after the frenzy of the dot-com boom and its inevitable bust, a feeling of digital possibility lingered in the air. Innovation felt swift, almost boundless, as if the future itself had been accelerated. Yet this technological optimism was brutally fractured on September 11th, 2001.
A plane just What? It's 737.
What?
The World Trade
Who are you
Center.
talking to?
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
At number 2 World Trade Center, right. Ladies and students in this office, we're not ready to die, but it's getting bad.
A new type of war. That's what it is.
In the aftermath, amidst the profound grief and shock, a stark operational truth confronted the United States and its intelligence agencies. The devastating attacks hadn't necessarily arisen from a lack of information, but rather from a critical failure, a failure to connect the dots. Crucial fragments of intelligence existed, but they lay scattered, imprisoned within incompatible systems and the fortified walls of different organizations. A potential solution, or perhaps the seeds of one, began to germinate not within the established corridors of power, but in the dynamic environment of Silicon Valley itself, specifically from the experiences forged at the online payment company PayPal. A pivotal figure here is Peter Thiel. Holding degrees in philosophy and law from Stanford University, Thiel possessed a sharp, sometimes contrarian intellect, already recognized within the tech sphere. He had co-founded PayPal and served as its chief executive, where his focus extended beyond mere corporate growth. He was deeply engaged in combating one of PayPal's most pressing existential threats, pervasive online fraud. In its early phase, PayPal was losing substantial sums to sophisticated fraud networks, involving stolen credit cards, fabricated accounts, and swift illicit money transfers. Countering this wasn't a matter of simple security updates. It presented a complex data challenge, unfolding at immense scale and velocity. At its peak, the company was reportedly losing over $10 million a month to fraud. The challenge fell to co-founder and CTO Max Levchin and his team. They realized traditional security models, built for the slower pace of brick-and-mortar banking, were falling behind. The problem wasn't just crime, it was data. The solution had to be born from data. Their first innovation tackled the problem of scale. Fraudsters were using automated bots to create thousands of fake accounts to exploit sign-up bonuses. To filter this noise, Levchin's team developed one of the first commercial versions of a CAPTCHA, a system they called the Gauss-Levchin test. By presenting a distorted string of characters, it created a simple test that humans could pass, but early computer programs could not. This elegant solution effectively neutralized the threat of automated account creation, allowing the team to focus on the more nuanced human-led fraud. With the automated noise reduced, they could concentrate on the core issue, identifying illicit transactions in a torrent of legitimate ones. For this, they built a powerful internal system, a risk management engine codenamed Igor, an anti-fraud program named after a Russian fraudster it helped apprehend in the year 2000. Igor was not a simple set of if-then rules. It was a sophisticated model that analysed dozens of variables for each transaction, searching for patterns and statistical anomalies known as heuristics. For example, Igor would flag transactions based on IP address location versus the credit card's billing address. It would analyse transaction velocity, how quickly money moved in and out of a new account. It looked for users who consistently made payments just below the maximum transaction limit. None of these things alone proved fraud, but together they created a risk score. The highest risk transactions were automatically frozen and funneled to a team of sharp human analysts. These analysts used another pioneering tool at the time, a graphical interface that would visualize the flow of money. For the first time, they could see the connections, uncovering entire fraud rings by following the money from one suspicious account to another, revealing the shape of the networks attacking them. It was a dynamic cat-and-mouse game fought in real time with data as the weapon. Thiel perceived a profound analogy. He hypothesized that this powerful methodology, integrating disparate data to uncover hidden connections and threats, could be fundamentally repurposed. Instead of pursuing financial fraudsters, could it be directed towards tracking terrorist cells? Could the digital traces scattered across vast intelligence databases be fused, not just into information but into foresight, potentially preventing future attacks? This concept became the cornerstone of a new enterprise. Thiel joined forces with Alex Karp, a philosopher holding a doctorate from Germany, an unconventional choice for CEO, known for his distinct worldview and later, his forthright defense of the company's controversial work.
We are dedicating our company, we have dedicated our company to the service of the West and the United States of America, and we're super proud of the role we play, especially in places we can't talk about. And we love our success in the U.S. and globally. Also, we are doing in the United Kingdom and many other places. Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them. And we hope you're in favor of that. We hope you're enjoying being a partner, and we're really happy and very, very focused on what we're doing.
Together with Stanford computer scientist Joe Lonsdale, Stephen Cohen, and PayPal engineer Nathan Gettings, they established Palantir Technologies in 2003. Its very name, derived from the mythical Seeing Stones in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, alluded to its profound aspiration to conjure clarity and understanding from complexity, to offer a glimpse into obscured truths hidden within fragmented data. However, Palantir's path immediately diverged from the typical tech startup due to its crucial formative funding source. Significant early investment originated not from venture capitalists prospecting on Sand Hill Road, but from In-Q-Tel. In-Q-Tel, the CIA's strategic investment organization, operates with the explicit mission to identify, adapt, and deliver cutting-edge technologies crucial to the missions of the US intelligence community, their early backing of Palantir reportedly starting with around $2 million. It was a powerful validation. It opened doors and conferred immediate credibility within the guarded realm of national security agencies. This intimate connection, forged in the crucible of a national crisis and directly supported by the intelligence apparatus, would fundamentally shape Palantir's identity, its technology, and its contentious journey ahead. From this singular confluence, Palantir began its ascent, destined to become one of the world's most formidable and deeply controversial technology firms. Having established its unique origins within the nexus of Silicon Valley and the US intelligence community, we arrive at the central question: what precisely does Palantir do? The answer lies not just in its products, but in the sophisticated technological engine that powers them. To understand Palantir, we must first understand the fundamental problem it was designed to solve, how its technology tackles that problem, and then see how that engine is aimed at two very different worlds. At its core, Palantir confronts the pervasive challenge of data silos. Imagine a vast organization where critical knowledge is fragmented, financial records in one locked room, operational logs in another, intelligence reports down the corridor, and sensor data in the basement. Each system speaks its own language, holds only a fraction of the truth. Trying to make sense of it all is like attempting to solve a puzzle where the pieces are not only scattered, but stored in incompatible boxes. Palantir's solution begins with data integration. It doesn't force an organization to tear down its existing systems. Instead, it acts like a master plumber, installing universal adapters and pipelines. Its technology connects to these disparate sources, drawing in both structured data, neat rows and columns from databases, and the messy, human-generated unstructured data, such as text from documents and emails, tagging key information as it flows. But simply collecting data is creating a bigger pile of noise. The real magic, the foundational pillar of Palantir's technology, lies in creating the ontology. Think of this as building a bespoke Rosetta Stone, or a universal dictionary for that organization's specific reality. Palantir helps define the essential objects, a person, a location, an event, a product, and standardizes the vocabulary across the entire organization. Crucially, this ontology maps not just the objects, but the relationships between them. It understands that an employee is assigned to a flight, which departs from an airport. It defines the grammar of the data, creating a rich, interconnected model of the real world. This translation and structuring of meaning is what unlocks the ability to ask profound questions across previously incompatible datasets. With this unified model in place, Palantir provides a suite of analysis tools, the toolkit for exploring this new landscape. This includes powerful search, link analysis to visualize the web of connections, and mapping tools for geographic context. This is the technological engine Palantir has built. So, with this powerful engine built on integration and meaning, how is it deployed? This is where we see Palantir's two flagship products, Gotham and Foundry. Let's start with Palantir Gotham. This is the original platform, engineered for the high-stakes world of government, defense, and law enforcement. Its clientele includes some of the world's most powerful security organizations, from the US agencies such as the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Defense, and ICE, to the international partners such as the UK's Ministry of Defense and Europe's law enforcement agency, Europol. Gotham uses the engine we've just described to function as a powerful digital investigation room. It allows analysts to take fragmented intelligence, a phone number, a financial transaction, a name from a report, and using the ontology, instantly map out its connections across all available data, revealing hidden networks and supporting everything from counter-terrorism operations to complex criminal investigations. Now let's look at Palantir Foundry. This platform applies the exact same technological principles to the commercial world. Its roster of clients includes titans of industry across diverse sectors, from aerospace giant Airbus optimizing its aircraft production, and pharmaceutical company Merck accelerating drug research, to the Scuderia Ferrari Formula One team analyzing race performance data in real time. For these companies, Foundry aims to create a digital twin of their entire operation. By integrating data from factory floors, supply chains, sales systems, and financial ledgers into a single ontological model, it allows businesses to ask complex questions, simulate the impact of disruptions, and find critical efficiencies. It's designed to be the central nervous system for a modern enterprise. As Palantir cemented its position within the US establishment, its power, born from Silicon Valley but nurtured by Washington, D.C., inevitably drew intense scrutiny. The very capabilities that made it indispensable to American intelligence and defense agencies began generating significant friction and sparking fierce public debate on home soil.
At how the Trump administration has tapped Palantir, the data mining company founded by the billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel, to compile data on people in the United States for a master database, including a new $30 million contract with ICE to provide near real-time visibility into migrant movements as it seeks.
The President has employed Palantir to carry out this executive order, essentially to merge all data from all different executive branch agencies into one single database. Now, it's unclear who would control that database, who would have access to it, what searches would be done, and there seem to be no guardrails about that.
Deep-seated anxieties about privacy and mass surveillance, amplified in the years following the Edward Snowden revelations, frequently centered on technologies like Palantir's. While the company often positioned itself as providing tools for targeted analysis rather than indiscriminate collection, its ability to fuse disparate datasets, potentially including sensitive personal information drawn from myriad sources, raised fundamental questions about the limits of government surveillance powers in the digital age. Critics feared the potential for misuse, the creation of detailed digital dossiers on individuals not suspected of crimes, and the chilling effect such capabilities could have on civil liberties. These fears weren't confined to government use. Concerns about the potential for Palantir's powerful tools to be turned inward emerged starkly in the corporate world. A notable incident reportedly occurred at JP Morgan Chase, one of Palantir's early high-profile commercial clients. According to reports surfaced around 2018, a security chief at the bank, who had championed the use of Palantir's software, initially intended for external threat detection, allegedly began leveraging it for internal employee surveillance. This reportedly involved monitoring employee communications, tracking their physical movements within buildings, and analyzing calendar data to gauge potential disgruntled employees. The situation reportedly contributed to the eventual ousting of the security chief involved, highlighting how its powerful capabilities could potentially be repurposed for intrusive monitoring by clients. Similar anxieties about scope and oversight surfaced in Palantir's work with the US law enforcement agencies. Its deployment in cities such as Los Angeles drew sharp criticism over concerns about algorithmic bias, where software trained on historical policing data could inadvertently perpetuate or even amplify existing racial or socioeconomic biases in law enforcement targeting. However, arguably the most explosive and sustained US controversy surrounded Palantir's long-standing relationship with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. Beginning with contracts reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars and consistently renewed, Palantir provided crucial software infrastructure, notably its investigative case management (ICM) system. Activist groups like Magente presented evidence alleging this technology became integral to ICE's operations under the Trump administration's aggressive enforcement policies, facilitating workplace raids, contributing to de facto family separations, and ultimately powering mass deportations.
Why are you grabbing me? Yes, but I just hold on. Wait, I have the right for due process, don't I?
This led to violent protests across various parts of the country.
Large group of people, it could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into
Simultaneously, ethical questions swirled around Palantir's work in the US military domain. Its prominent role in the Department of Defense's Project Maven, aimed at using AI to automatically identify objects of interest in drone surveillance footage, placed it at the forefront of debates on AI in warfare. While Google famously withdrew from Maven following employee protests, Palantir embraced the work, reinforcing its image as deeply intertwined within the US defense establishment. The COVID-19 pandemic brought Palantir's capabilities into the US public health sphere on an unprecedented scale. Its software became the backbone of HHS Protect Now, the platform used by the US Department of Health and Human Services to manage the crisis. This system ingested and integrated data from thousands of hospitals and state health departments across the country. While federal health officials credited the system with providing critical situational awareness, its deployment under Palantir also amplified existing privacy concerns about the growing reliance on a private tech firm for core public health functions. Underlying many of these operational controversies is the powerful and often polarizing influence of Palantir's co-founder and chairman, Peter Thiel. His role extends far beyond corporate strategy into the realm of ideological shaping and high-stakes political maneuvering. Thiel is a significant calculated player, attempting to reshape the American political landscape, particularly the conservative movement. His prominent libertarianism informs his actions, leading observers to analyze his role as a potential kingmaker. Nowhere is this kingmaker role more evident than in his relationship with J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's 2024 vice presidential pick. This wasn't a simple endorsement. It was a deep, multi-layered cultivation. Thiel reportedly first took significant notice of Vance while he was still a student at Yale Law School, seeing potential in the future author of Hillbilly Elegy. This initial connection evolved into a professional mentorship and alliance. Vance subsequently worked at Thiel's venture capital firm, Mithril Capital, and Thiel later became an early investor in Vance's own VC firm, Naria Capital, demonstrating significant personal and professional backing before Vance's political push. When Vance decided to run for the US Senate in Ohio in 2022, Thiel's support became decisively financial and arguably transformative. He became Vance's biggest benefactor, pouring a reported $15 million into the Protect Ohio Values Super PAC, providing the crucial financial firepower Vance needed to navigate a crowded Republican primary. This massive investment underscores Thiel's strategic approach, identifying promising individuals early, often through elite networks like Yale, and heavily backing candidates who align with his vision, particularly those associated with the New Right or National Conservative movement. Thiel's role in all of this wasn't just a donor, it was arguably that of a mentor, a patron, and a strategic architect, actively forging a political figure who could carry a specific ideological banner. This deep involvement in cultivating political talent showcases Thiel's ambition to exert influence far beyond Silicon Valley. For critics of Palantir, this creates another layer of controversy. The immense profits generated from controversial government data contracts are, in turn, being leveraged by its chairman to directly shape the political landscape and install ideologically aligned figures into the highest levels of government, creating a potent and, for some, deeply troubling feedback loop between data, profit, and political power. While born and deeply rooted in the United States, Palantir's expansion into Europe brought its controversial reputation and powerful technology into contact with different legal frameworks, political sensitivities, and public expectations, particularly regarding data privacy and state surveillance. In the United Kingdom, Palantir's engagement with the National Health Service, the NHS, became a major national flashpoint. This culminated in late 2023 with the awarding of NHS England's biggest ever IT contract, valued at $330 million over 7 years, to a consortium led by Palantir, also including partners such as Accenture and PwC. The contract is for the Federated Data Platform, FDP. Its stated aim is ambitious, not to replace existing hospital IT systems, but to help them talk to each other, creating a unified view of critical operational data like waiting lists, bed capacity, staffing levels, and procurement, ultimately driving improvements in treatment and efficiency. NHS England cited Palantir's previous work during the pandemic, initially for just £1, followed by contracts worth around £60 million, and successful pilots, such as a reported 28% waiting list reduction at Chelsea and Westminster NHS Trust, as evidence of its value. Despite these stated benefits, the FDP contract ignited fierce opposition. Privacy campaigners drew parallels to the failed care.data project from 2016, cancelled due to privacy concerns. They highlighted Palantir's US intelligence origins, its founder Peter Thiel's past critical comments about the NHS, and the fact that patient data gathered during the pandemic could potentially be used in the new system without requiring further specific consent. Although the NHS stressed that health authorities, not Palantir, would remain in control of the data, and Palantir reiterated that as a software provider it doesn't collect or monetize data, anxieties persisted. Concerns revolved around data security, transparency, potential mission creep, and the spectre of facilitating privatization, prompting calls from groups such as Amnesty International for cast iron guarantees against data monetization and pressure from cross-party MPs for greater reassurance.
Now, the NHS is facing a lawsuit over one of its deals, the data store developed by controversial Silicon Valley giant Palantir.
We've gone to court because the future of the NHS is being written now in the final stages of the pandemic, and unless people have their say about data deals between the NHS and big tech firms, it's going to be too late later. The COVID data store is the largest amalgamation of data in the NHS's history. At the beginning of the data store, we were told it was a temporary emergency system, that it would be shut down at the end of the pandemic, but it turns out that's not so.
As of 2025, reports from sources such as the Democracy for Sale Substack emerged, indicating that a growing number of NHS hospital trusts were actively rejecting or refusing to implement the Federated Data Platform. According to NHS figures, fewer than a quarter of England's 215 hospital trusts were using Palantir's technology by the end of 2024. Beyond the UK, Palantir's activities drew significant scrutiny at the European Union level, particularly concerning its relationship with Europol, the EU's law enforcement agency. According to European Commission responses and subsequent reporting, Europol has been utilising Palantir's Gotham software since at least 2016 for operational analysis, primarily within its European Counter-Terrorism Centre. The platform reportedly helps analyse complex cross-border crime data related to terrorism and cybercrime by linking disparate information from member states. The procurement, handled via subcontractor Capgemini under framework agreements potentially worth millions of euros, and the potential for findings to be shared with third countries such as the United States, especially regarding foreign fighter data originating from battlefields, raised significant red flags for privacy advocates and some MEPs. Concerns centred on compliance with stringent EU data protection laws such as the GDPR, the lack of transparency surrounding the specifics of the data analysis and safeguards, and the potential creation of powerful, opaque surveillance capabilities at a pan-European level. These tensions between powerful data analysis capabilities and European legal protections manifested itself starkly at the national level in Germany. In February 2023, Germany's Federal Constitutional Court delivered a landmark ruling concerning the use of such software, explicitly referencing Palantir's technology as deployed in the state of Hesse under the name Hessen Data by police forces in Hesse and Hamburg. The court declared the existing state laws authorizing the use of such software for certain types of data analysis, particularly for predictive policing and analyzing data of non-suspects, to be unconstitutional. The ruling didn't ban the software itself, but critically found that the legal framework lacked sufficient safeguards and justification for the depth of privacy intrusion. The court argued the current laws did not allow for potentially sweeping analysis of vast amounts of data, including information on individuals not suspected of any crime, without clear enough thresholds or concrete indications of danger. It determined that the existing legal basis failed to adequately limit the scope of analysis and protect fundamental privacy rights against such powerful tools. This significant ruling forced the states of Hesse and Hamburg, and sent a clear signal to others like North Rhine-Westphalia, which was also planning to introduce Gotham, to revise their legislation. They would need to implement much stricter limitations, clearer justifications, and potentially independent oversight mechanisms if they wished to continue using Palantir's software for these broad analytical purposes, especially concerning predictive applications or data from individuals not directly linked to serious criminal threats. A national-level legal challenge also occurred alongside persistent transparency concerns at the EU level. There were reports of undisclosed meetings between Palantir CEO Alex Karp and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in Davos in January 2020, and the subsequent confirmation by the Commission that no written records existed of said conversations sparked criticism from transparency watchdogs. They argued such omissions hinder public understanding of potential corporate influence on EU policymaking, reinforcing anxieties about Palantir's access and accountability within European institutions. Underpinning many of these European anxieties is the fundamental question of data location and sovereignty. How does Palantir technically address the stringent requirements of the GDPR and fears about data leaving European jurisdiction? Similar to its US strategy, Palantir relies heavily on major cloud service partners. However, for Europe, there's a distinct emphasis on addressing sovereignty concerns directly. Palantir highlights collaborations, notably with Oracle, to offer its Foundry and AI platforms on Oracle's EU sovereign cloud infrastructure, data centers physically within the EU, operated by EU entities and personnel, designed specifically to meet European data residency and regulatory requirements. However, a crucial caveat remains. Oracle, the cloud infrastructure provider, is ultimately a US company subject to the American Cloud Act due to its headquarters being located in Texas. What this means, in practice, is that despite data being physically stored in a Frankfurt or Dublin data center, US law enforcement and intelligence agencies can issue a legal warrant to Oracle's US headquarters, compelling the company to access and turn over that data. The physical location of the server does not grant absolute immunity from the legal obligations of its American parent company. In parallel, a critical distinction emerges with Gotham Europa, tailored for Europe's sensitive government affairs and regulated sectors. Its defining feature appears to be infrastructure flexibility, offering customers granular control on its cloud provider. Clients can choose to deploy Gotham Europa on a US provider's sovereign cloud, or potentially opt for a non-US cloud provider headquartered under European jurisdiction, significantly altering the Cloud Act risk profile. Alternatively, they can host it entirely on-premise within their own European data centers. This range of options effectively places the onus on the European customer to assess their specific legal obligations and risk appetite, choosing the deployment model that best aligns with their sovereignty requirements. Ultimately, Palantir's European strategy showcases a sophisticated attempt to reconcile its powerful technology with stringent regional demands. By leveraging sovereign cloud partnerships and offering infrastructure flexibility, it attempts to provide mechanisms to navigate the European data sovereignty landscape. Yet court rulings such as the one in Germany, coupled with the inherent legal friction between US and EU jurisdiction, demonstrate that this remains a complex, contested act a persistent theme shaping Palantir's operations and reception in Europe. As we stand on the cusp of an AI revolution, Palantir's influence is set not to shrink, becoming ever more interwoven into the fabric of our lives. This technological expansion is already creating visible legal friction, particularly in Europe. The European Court of Human Rights provides a stark illustration. Cases invoking Article 8, the right to private and family life, have seen a dramatic surge, driven largely by citizens challenging an ever-so-expanding state surveillance. Data indicates a rise of approximately 250% in these violation cases between the year 2000 and today. This isn't just a legal curiosity, it's a direct reflection of society pushing back against the very data integration capabilities that companies such as Palantir have perfected. The strain on existing laws such as Article 8 is so great that it's sparking a new, profound debate among legal and human rights experts. Is it time to establish a new, fundamental right? A specific protection for our digital personality, the sum total of our online data, our virtual self, recognizing it as a distinct entity deserving of its own unique legal shield, fit for the 21st century. This robust, rights-based debate in Europe stands in stark contrast to the situation in the United States. The US lacks a single, comprehensive federal privacy law equivalent to Europe's GDPR. Attempts to create one, such as the promising bipartisan American Data Privacy and Protection Act of 2022, have so far failed to pass into law. Instead, data protection in the US remains a complex and inconsistent patchwork of state-level laws, leaving many citizens with fewer baseline protections and creating a more fragmented regulatory landscape for companies like Palantir to navigate within their home country. And so this brings us back to our final fundamental questions. For Europe and other nations, should we continue to rely on American companies for such critical infrastructure? And as we navigate this new frontier, where do we draw the line, not just between security and total surveillance, but between the rights we've always had and the new rights we may now desperately need to define? Hello everyone, sorry for the long wait. It took longer than expected. I hope you enjoyed the video. I would like to know your thoughts on it, and if you have any suggestions for future videos.